Hello there. There's many elements in our pop culture that we have a fond nostalgia for. Now when it comes to telly, for many it's the classic idents that were used by the BBC. The sheer variety of these idents, combined with the iconic looks and creative segments, they manifested themselves in the hearts and minds of many generations of UK viewers. However, there is another nostalgic TV staple that sometimes gets overlooked, and that's Ceefax, the world's first teletext service. Now on the day of this upload, the 23rd of October, this marks 5 years since the service said goodbye to us for the last time.
You're too slow!
If you were around from the mid-1970s until the late 2000s, there's a high chance you remember, or at least have heard of, Ceefax. The blocky design, the bright vibrant colours, and the occasional slow pace. But for nearly 4 decades, Ceefax was a centre bank of up-to-date information that in the days before the internet arguably made it the first place you would find breaking news or headline stories. The fact it lasted quite a way into the internet age is still quite astounding. But now, let's go back and look at the origins of this iconic teletext system. The idea of some form of text transmissions had been floating around the BBC since the 1960s, but early attempts at a hard copy system failed. A couple of years later, a new attempt was made, this time to digitally input a text information-based service onto a consumer TV. In October of 1972, it became official, with the BBC announcing the new service as Ceefax. And for the next 2 years, the system would be tested thoroughly, ensuring it was ready to be transmitted and accessible nationwide. And on the 23rd of September 1974, that day finally came.
A team of BBC engineers have been helping to plan what can best be described as a revolution. A revolution, that is, in communication, and one that will reach straight into the home through that familiar piece of furniture, the television set.
Ceefax, a name manufactured from Seeing Facts.
Initial reception was limited. By 1975, there was still a large amount of households that were still undergoing a black and white to colour TV switchover, which would require a brand new television. Ceefax relied on these switchovers as it was built into the newest models of TVs at the time. Now to access Ceefax, viewers could switch to text mode and then input a 3-digit number in order to access a page of their choice. Originally, there was little over 50 pages to choose from, but this soon expanded to over 100. It showed the BBC's early attempts to create some form of subtitles for deaf viewers, making their television content a lot more accessible. The BBC's main rival, ITV, also got its own form of teletext system, Oracle, devised by the Independent Broadcasting Authority, or IBA for short. However, in 1976, both the BBC and the IBA agreed on a single standard format in how their teletext programs would be displayed. This would become known as World System Teletext, and this format and layout used by this moniker would remain in place pretty much untouched for the next 35 years. In a world before the internet and social media outlets, Ceefax was cited as being the fastest form of news updating in the world. That seems pretty laughable these days, but back then it was a stone cold fact.
It's live broadcasting all the time. We don't have to wait for printing presses. We don't have to wait for bulletin times. We're the fastest news service, fastest news medium that there could possibly be. 30 seconds off the printers and onto the air.
30 seconds?
If they're working well, yes.
Writers could receive breaking news information, input it on their systems, and have it transmitted in under a minute. This up-to-date processing didn't just apply to the general news, it could be applied to sports, travel, and financial tables. By the start of the 1980s, Ceefax was pretty much a staple in many British households. It even made inroads to connect with the BBC's personal computer, the BBC Micro.
And then there are those visitors who want to use its unearthly scientific potential. Poor Daphne. The BBC microcomputer system is a world leader, and it's still growing.
Utilising the computer's teletext adapter, Ceefax would offer telesoftware for users to download onto their microcomputers. Now, this service would be updated around once a week and lasted from 1983 up until 1989. The 1980s also saw the implementation of Ceefax into the daily schedules.
At the time now, it's just after 24 minutes to 3, and until our news summary at 5:35, we return to a selection of pages from the BBC's teletext information service, Ceefax.
Known as Pages from Ceefax, it was first broadcast on BBC channels in 1980. Alternatively billed as Ceefax in Vision or Ceefax AM, which came before breakfast time went out, this programme purely served the purpose of filling vacant scheduling slots. Now, back in the 80s, 24-hour broadcasting was a distant concept, with the BBC service typically running from 6 in the morning
In a few moments, it'll be breakfast time.
till up to 2 AM the following day.
And there's your first look at the BBC One clock this decade, 2 hours of which have now elapsed.
So, if say around lunchtime there was no programming billed, Pages from Ceefax would step in to fill the void.
It begins at 1 o'clock, and until then we return you to the BBC's information service, Ceefax.
Now, this was quite different to the regular teletext system. Normally, viewers had complete interactivity with Ceefax, inputting the page numbers via remote control to access the content that they wanted. With Pages from Ceefax, this interactivity was removed. This had both pros and cons. The pros being that it could be received on any television receiver, whether it had teletext capabilities or not, but the major downside was that what was shown on screen were just select pages, and if in that half an hour what you were interested in seeing wasn't displayed, well, you just have to suck it up and find it yourself.
This is more my sort of thing, I must admit. Let me see, 1, 7, 6. The top 40, part of my job.
Now, Pages from Ceefax would become less regular on the schedules during the 1990s, mainly being relegated to overnight downtime hours.
It's time for us to say goodnight now, as BBC Two will be taking a short break. That's until 2 o'clock and the start of the Learning Zone.
It had a long life, the last edition airing in the early hours of the 22nd of October 2012, though we'll get to that a little bit later. As I mentioned earlier, ITV had their own form of teletext, Oracle.
Is to page Oracle teletext.
After the assimilation of the two broadcasters' formats into the World System Teletext look, it pretty much served and ran like Ceefax, just with more of an ITV focus.
But back to ITV now, because as I said just now, they have a regional service which actually provides rather a fantastic service for me in London. Travel news, as we know, is now becoming maybe a mainstay of local radio transmissions. It's also a mainstay of local Oracle transmissions. In Scotland and in the southeast and in London, there are local Oracle transmissions, which will come round in a second when it gets to 312. London Area Report Travel News.
When Channel 4 launched in 1982, it also adapted Oracle as its teletext system. It also, however, boasted an additional system, which was 4Tel.
Pages of up-to-the-minute news of all your favourite programmes. A quick guide to what's on and when. Programme and film synopses. Background information and features. Quiz pages and puzzles for all the family. And the adventures of the cartoon dog 4T. Call up the index on page 404 and get more from 4 with 4Tel.
Which which mainly focused on showcasing Channel 4 programming and additional information on them.
They see their job as complementary to the TV service, not to provide news. That's done by Oracle on Channel 3 on ITV. But Foretell will tell you the story behind the story. If I want to know more about Dick Van Dyke or Brookside, Foretell will give it to me.
Similar to pages from Ceefax, Channel 4 would air pages from Oracle up until 1989, and pages from Foretell up until 1997. The same time pages from Foretell stopped airing, Channel 5 launched in the March of that year.
Welcome, it's 6 o'clock on Sunday, March the 30th, and this is 5.
And with it came its own service, 5 Text, which ran up until 2011. Oracle, despite being used by ITV and Channel 4, was rebranded simply as Teletext in 1993, and was eventually shut down in 2009. So this brings us squarely back to Ceefax. How did it begin to decline, and how did it ultimately bow out of our television sets? Let's find out. The early to mid-1990s saw the dawn of the World Wide Web. When it became readily available for consumers on computers, it quickly became a fast new source of information and content. Ceefax was starting to seem a bit slow and clunky by comparison. The BBC didn't help the situation for Ceefax when they launched the Red Button service in September of 1999. Originally known as BBC Text, this interface proved to be a more fluid, colourful and richer experience than Ceefax could offer. BBC Text could display more complex graphics and even photographic images, whereas Ceefax could only utilise graphics via the use of the simplistic blocks, which, whilst they had a charm, were starting to look incredibly dated by the dawn of the 21st century. But with the launch and expansion of the BBC Text/Red Button service, this signified the emergence of digital terrestrial television, as opposed to analogue transmissions. The BBC removed Ceefax from the Sky Digital service in 2002, and by 2007, the proposed digital switchover begun across the whole of the UK. This would last for nearly a 5-year period and see different regions of the country gradually switch off any and all analogue transmitters, so that digital ones could take over.
Locally, we've only received 4 stations, whereas the rest of the country has been receiving 5 analogue channels. So in Whitehaven, not only are we going to get Channel 5, which has been a big miss, but we're going to get another sort of 15 channels in addition. So we'll end up with a 20-channel service.
Whilst this gave many people time to acquire a digitally capable TV, this put Ceefax on a timer. The Red Button continued to expand and become more sophisticated in its content and output, and it pretty much was able to duplicate and run the same information that Ceefax could. By the end of 2011, more than 3/4 of the UK had completed the digital switchover, and Ceefax was about to enter its final year of transmission. Earlier I mentioned the final pages from Ceefax, which was broadcast on Monday the 22nd of October 2012. This edition was special, as the continuity announcements were specially created for this final broadcast.
It's BBC Two, and it's the end of an era as we mark a piece of television history. As Northern Ireland goes digital soon, Ceefax ends transmission after 38 years. And since 1980, we've shown Ceefax in vision pages with music on the BBC until now. So before the final fade to black, enjoy for the very last time news and information with pages from Ceefax and some music. Time to hit the road.
However, the very next day, it would all be over.
It's been the friend of insomniacs, shift workers and news addicts for 38 years. Today, though, marks the very last day of the BBC's information service, Ceefax.
Yes, viewers in Northern Ireland will be the last to see the analogue service in action as they make the switch to digital television this week.
On Tuesday, the 23rd of October 2012, some specially designed slides appeared, giving thanks to viewers and bidding them a fond farewell. And then, at 11:32 p.m, at 19 seconds into the minute, Ceefax was shut down permanently as the last analogue TV signal was turned off.
Analogue television has seen many technological advances and additions since the days of Baird and Marconi. From 405 line black and white to 625 line colour, the introduction of Ceefax, the world's first teletext system, and Nikon stereo, to name just a few. The move to digital television will allow technology to advance still further, providing even more services. And so, from tomorrow morning, BBC One Northern Ireland will be available in high definition on Freeview, satellite and cable. Now though, we enter a new era of broadcasting as this becomes a fully digital UK. From the analogue BBC television service, good night and goodbye.
And that moment marked the end of Ceefax's 38-year lifespan on the BBC. Even though it seems quite an abstract thing, Ceefax had quite a lot of sentimental value and attachment for millions of British people.
Oh Ceefax, for 29 years you've been part of my life, telling me the news and views of the world. The blocky weather guide and advent calendars of my childhood, and the breakfast time ritual of shouting at the letters pages shall be no more. So goodbye Ceefax, my old friend.
When the service did shut down, there were many tributes on social media, ironically one form of information that made Ceefax obsolete. And today, 5 years after the shutdown, Ceefax is still fondly remembered. The music from Ceefax is particularly remembered. The service played some great tracks over the years, many of which I use as background music for my own videos. If you want to hear some of this music, just research music from Ceefax and enjoy what you hear. In terms of other entertainment, the new Take That musical, the band, uses the Ceefax page as its preset. In terms of its availability, Ceefax is still kept underway in a variety of different formats. One of these is pagesfromceefax.net, a website that very accurately simulates pages from Ceefax, but keeps it up to date with the latest news. Reading about 2017 topics via teletext is strange but also very heartwarming. There's also Tfax, where users connect a Raspberry Pi computer and a teletext-capable TV, and before you know it, you've got Ceefax back. This system was developed by Peter Kwan, who I have to give thanks for uploading some of the early Ceefax documentary clips to YouTube. Go and check out his channel for more on that. Overall, Ceefax was a system that did more than just provide subtitles for the deaf. It provided the nation with up-to-date news at a record speed, providing program listings for consumers without TV guides, provided information on sports, film, music and more. It was an all-in-one centre for information, and even though it would become outdated, it had a charm that could not be emulated or replaced by more modern services, and proved that by lasting nearly 4 decades. For me, I'll always remember Ceefax for being that weird, blocky, brightly coloured garble of text that would always be on my TV whilst I waited for Smile to start on a Sunday morning. Thanks for everything, Ceefax. And thank you all very much for watching. Take care, and I'll see you next time.